All right, let's face it. In high school, we all had that one English teacher. Well, that English teacher is me. I'm Brian Kulak, a career educator and author of The Hot Seat. Every week, I reconnect with former students, colleagues, and fascinating people to explore who they were, who they are now, and the wisdom they've gained along the way. Welcome to The Hot Seat. This week's guest is, despite the fact that he graduated in 2009, we've had a long friendship that has spanned all kinds of different walks of life. Both Dave Matthews fans. We go to concerts together as much as we can. We'll be together in a couple weeks in Camden. We're both tattoo enthusiasts. He's got way more than I do. I have some catching up to do. And Sean and his mom came to the first signing at Mulligan's and spent some time with Dana and I just talking about life and things when things died down. And Sean, I thought that was like you're like the perfect person to have that happen with. I know I'd seen your mom maybe a month prior and just was talking about you and Austin and, you know, how proud I am of you guys and what it must be like to be your mom. So to have her there with you, you know, having you had to drive up from Maryland, the whole thing was really important to me. So I'm so glad that you're on. So as you know, we start each show with who were you and who are you. Catch everybody up on who you were and who you are, my friend.
Yeah. First, thank you for having me. I'm really grateful to be here. It's been cool to watch each episode and get to go to the party. So thanks for inviting.
Yeah.
I graduated in '09. I played basketball, played soccer my senior year, and I just remembered, but I also played freshman year baseball.
Did you?
Yeah, as a not baseball kid, it was so fun to play a sport that I cared because it was a sport, but like I didn't care in like I want to be the
Who was the
best kind of way.
coach? I don't remember that.
The best memory is the coach at a Cherry Hill school walking up to Mike McHugh asking for the scorecard, and Mike was like, "I'm pitching."
That's a very Mike thing to do.
Yeah,
I gotta get Mike on the show. I love Mike.
Yeah, shout out to Mike. Haven't seen him in years, but that was a great memory. Then I wrote for the paper.
Yep.
And that was high school for me.
So who are you now?
Yeah, I live in Maryland, in Bel Air, so like an hour and maybe 20 minutes from Jersey. I have a beautiful family, 2 boys, a wife, 2 dogs. I work in software, and I also am an advisor for like social and emotional learning for K to 5.
Okay.
So it's like it's a little business that does social emotional learning and teaches mindfulness and different skills there. So I'm an advisor for them as well.
That's amazing. I mean, SEL took on a life of its own far too long into the kind of educational landscape, right? So like we needed a pandemic, which I talk about in the book, to make people realize that SEL is important. And then, you know, there's a contingent of folks who think SEL is a bad word and want to kind of lump it in with other things that it just isn't. But one of the things I say at school all the time is, you know, we can't expect a kid to come in and learn math at 9 a.m. if he just got his ass kicked the night before, right? Or if he hasn't eaten in a day and a half, hasn't seen mom for a while because she went away. Like we just don't think about those things the way we should. So at my school, we do. I mean, it's such an important part of growing up and learning how to be a learner. So, you know, when we have those kids who are in crisis and who need that extra SEL touch, we do so as the primary function of their time at school. And then we'll put a math book in front of them, right? So I didn't even know about that. Sean, tell me more about how you got involved in that.
Yeah, it's a friend of mine. It's called Let's Grow Sports, and we teach SEL through sport. It was originally called Give and Grow Basketball, and then it turned into Let's Grow Sports. And we work with elementary schools. So like the school is our client, and then the students are who we're serving. And it used to be only virtual, now it's virtual and in person. And a really good friend of mine who I just met playing hoops one day, like just was a guy on my team. We started talking. He runs the business, and then I kind of help advise on like business operations and some sales things. And one of the really special things is that we serve a lot of inner city, and he is a good-looking, educated Black man.
Yep.
And there's a lot of students in a lot of schools who don't have somebody like that,
right,
who is talking about their feelings and sharing how to think about their own feelings. So it's like such a special thing, and it's unpaid. It's just something that I volunteer as an advisor for.
What do you think is the one of the number one things you guys are seeing in terms of childhood struggles when it comes to SEL? What are most kids kind of dealing with as you work through that?
Yeah, the first thing that comes to mind is like their ability just to be present with their feelings. I mean, the distractions in our world are just too many. But then my favorite is anytime we have an event and something's going on, and the student who is arms crossed, the most sitting in the back, doesn't want to participate. You look at the student, they're like he or she probably has some stuff going on. That's who's giving him the hug at the end of every
Right,
class,
right.
because they needed somebody to talk to them like that, or maybe their parent does talk to them like that on these rare occasions when they can, and it's just not enough. So those are the two things that we often see, is just like the inability to be present,
Yep.
and then also so many students who are trying to say that they're grateful for what he's doing.
Yeah, yeah. If you remember,
Yeah.
when I talked to Kaylee about the hot seat, she talked about how, the question and answer were great, but like the effect it had on everybody else who was getting to be the fourth wall, right? Like if Sean's in the
Mhm.
hot seat, he gets his question, but everybody else gets to think about it free of charge, right? You don't have to
Yeah.
answer it, you don't have to say anything. Um, so I think that again, the idea that we are asking kids questions that they're dying to be asked, especially by someone that they want to have asked them. So your colleague sounds exactly like that. Like they're
Yeah.
probably not expecting him to ask a question about how they're feeling, or how they're moving through life
Yeah.
from K to 5, right? So it's a kind of a cool tie-in I didn't even know about. We didn't talk about this prior to the show.
No, no.
Um,
And we have athletes. We have a lot of athletes who participate. Lonnie Walker, who was on
yeah,
the Sixers for a little while,
yep,
he'll come
yep.
in and he'll talk about how he prepares for his mental health. And we've had a lot of athletes who will come on for like 10, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, send in videos. So then the students, just love that even further, and we can repurpose it. It's special.
It's a great idea. And as we're talking, I think I'm going to try to steal it. I think that's a great way to do like quick hitters. Like our kids hear us talk about mental health and SEL all the time at school. But I think quick hitters with people who are on the other side of where they are, talking
Hmm.
through honestly about what it's like to struggle or be sad and not know why. I can't tell you how many conversations I have with kids when they're struggling and they just say I'm sad, and I'm like, well, why, honey? And I don't know, and I'm like, I get it. I
Yeah.
know exactly what that feeling is. I know what it's called. I know how to help it as a grown up, but you're not ready for that yet. So that's kind of what
Right.
I'm here for. So just again, thinking through like the educational um, arc, no one was ever talking about that. In fact, when I was in school, Sean, like special ed was considered the rubber room, kids who couldn't learn, kids who were
Absolutely.
weird. Like there's this weird, terrible moniker attached to special ed. And now we're doing such great work in schools, public schools anyway, to undo all that and then get kids talking. We have morning
Yeah.
meeting first thing in the morning, and then after they get back from recess, which is the worst part of my day every single day. That's my the bane of my existence.
Yeah.
But
That's the
we give
crisis.
kids like 15 minutes each day from 12:30 to 12:45 to just kind of talk about what happened at recess. Are we able to get through this? Who do we need help from? Do we need Mr. Kolak? So I'm going to we'll have to talk offline about that so I
Yeah.
can tap in a little bit. That's really cool.
Yeah, reset norms and all. Real quick, like I taught
Yeah,
fifth grade special ed my first year out of college. Like I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up, like so many people. So like I taught fifth grade special ed, then I was working for a nonprofit for a little while, and then I eventually got into like the software space.
right.
Um, and when I think about what that experience was like versus what it was like when I was in elementary school, to be in special ed is just a crazy change.
It
Yeah.
is. Yeah. And I'm glad it went the other way. I'm glad people are seeing kids for kids, not kids for, the letters IEP attached to their names. Um, so you mentioned basketball a couple times. We both were point guards, and probably had contentious relationships with our coaches. I mean, I know Don Borden has watched pretty much every episode. I saw him at retirement, and he and I banged heads, man. And I'm going to be honest with you. I hope he's watching eventually. He was right. I turned the ball over way too much. I rolled too much. I was just too much, and I really wasn't. I wasn't as good enough. I wasn't good enough to be the point guard.
Hmm.
But I learned a lot from him over time. But it took me to not be in his backcourt to get to that point. Talk to me about what basketball has meant to you over the years. I know you've not just played but coached, and I know it's been a big part of your life.
Yeah, I love playing. I still play. It's very different to play now than than then. And then high school hoops for me was definitely a tough relationship a lot of times. My freshman year, very different than the remaining years. So hoops was like a special place to me. I if I think about like where I grew up, it was the outside courts across the
Yeah,
street. Like
right,
I could just go there by myself, whatever situation was going on. Like that was my place to go.
right.
Every once in a while when I go home, I might still shoot for like 10 minutes there just because
Yeah.
it's just so comforting. But as far as high school hoops went for me, I learned a couple things from that. I'm the type of person where if you tell me exactly what you want done and how you want it done and why, I'm going to do it that way. So I learned how I like to be communicated to, and then in the flip
Okay.
side, how I don't like to be communicated to. And I
Yep.
wish that I could have expressed that in high school. And I also wish that in high school I could have expressed like better understanding of people's roles. I wasn't the best player on the team. And if I just would have been mature enough to say, hey, so and so and so and so, you're our best players, and I
Yeah.
want to help you be in your best position. Let me do what I do best, which is
Get you the
facilitate.
ball. Yep. Yep.
But I wasn't mature enough. I wanted to be the best player and I wasn't, but I was the best at a thing, and
Right.
other people were the best at particular things too. And I wish that I could have been mature enough as as a high schooler to like acknowledge roles and where people thrive.
How long do you think it took you to get to that realization, Sean? That you needed that maturation process to understand who you were as a player and as a person?
Yeah, I guess that's probably something that I learned through college and then a little bit outside of college, and then had it kind of correlate to hoops.
Right.
And by
Right.
no means was that like the impetus of me thinking about roles and things that lanes that people are really great at, and growing in certain lanes versus kind of continuing to stay in that best place.
Yeah. Yeah. And as a point guard, you have a lot of responsibility. You are the coach on the floor. You have the ball in your hands the most, which is why we turn it over the most.
Yeah,
It's your job to get it to the scorers and hope that they score. But I mean, I think that was a large part of our relationship was we both were
yeah.
that thing. We were together for a while there. Do you want to tell the sad story from your perspective that makes me sad all the time, or should I tell the sad story about the end of my coaching career? Yeah,
I
see, I
think
see your smile. Yeah, I see your smile.
I think you should tell it. Um, yeah, you should tell it.
So we're in that little whatever that hallway thing was called, overlooking the gym. And just for the listeners, I had decided to step away from coaching, but was talked out of it by Chris Zatuski. And I still think the world of Chris and that whole crew, Bolin and Noel, and that whole crew means so much to me. They always have. In fact, Bolin and Noel were at the signing, and that made my night. But Chris laid out a case that I should stay one more year because he's a senior, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna do it one more year, and I did one more year. And then I decided to step away. And then little Shawnee O'Connor stops me in the hallway, overlooking the gym like it was a high school flipping movie. And he says to me, "Listen, I know you're going to step away. I need you to stay one more year for me." Did it for Chris, and I'm like, "God damn it! How did he know?" But I had so committed to that point. I knew Billy was leaving, and I was just tapped out of basketball. I knew that I was moving towards some other things in my life, grad school in particular, and probably leaving. So I told Sean no, and I that was a hard day, and I'm not even overplaying my hand, because when you have relationships with people like you and I had, and you asked me for a favor and I had to say no, especially even though you had that ace in your hole that Chris got what he wanted the year before for the exact same reasons. Now you
Yeah,
and I are close, a bit closer than Chris and I are now, but for no other reason than just kind of the way our paths have gone. But so the fact that we're still friends, the fact that that you're here tonight, that you came to the signing, that I know I can always text you whenever I want to, and I'll see you at Dave shows, even though I turned you down, means a lot to me, because
yeah.
that was a tough, and good on you for having the balls to stop me in the hallway and ask me to keep coaching for you.
Yeah, looking back, I mean, you were my freshman when I was on JV as a freshman. You were my coach, and then
Right.
Billy's leaving. I had such a great first year, and so there's also the scariness of like what's going to come next. But if you were
Right.
still there,
I know.
then there's comfort. But as I look back on it, the irony of it is how many times you worked the clock my
I
high
did.
school career.
I did. But Sean, think about I don't have any. I just have to do my deep man
Oh,
voice to announce you guys.
yeah.
In fact, you'll love this. When the Weldies came to the signing last week, as they were leaving, Marita's like, "Can you just do the basketball announcing for
No
Mickey one more
way.
time?" And Mickey wasn't there, but I did it anyway, and she was over the moon. So that was how I kept my
Yeah.
foot in basketball. I just didn't have to go to every the practices and so forth. And anyway, all right. So lastly, before we move into your hot seat question, the Dave thing is really important to me. I talk to anybody I can about how our caravan has grown from 3 or 4 people to what it is now in the 30s. Even though people kind of come in and go out, but like having wives there, and now there's some people who are bringing their kids. That Dave pilgrimage every year is a huge part of, I think, why these kinds of things have worked for so
Mhm.
long. So what is it like for you guys to come, or was it weird the first few times? Like, what was it like to party with a teacher, age appropriate, everyone who's listening at home, so I keep my license, but my certificate. But what was it like? What does it mean to you to have that kind of group of people that meets every year?
Yeah, for me, the first year I felt like very much a tag along. So the first year I went, it was like going with
Oh yeah,
Garrison,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
because of Jackie and Allison and all that. But then it becomes like the classic Audubon, like everybody a little bit connected, where you get to run into somebody, maybe that once a year, and then the fact that it continues to just kind of grow and evolve, and everyone's invited, and yet not everybody always can make each year, and then the next year somebody's there that you only see once a year. Like, it's just
Yeah,
special. It is.
yeah,
When I think of like Audubon like thriving, it's kind of funny, and maybe it's because of tomorrow. It's Fourth of July and Dave Caravan
yeah,
are
yeah.
like two places where like the town just like shows its best cards.
And I just saw. Did you see Audubon was in USA Today today?
Yeah,
Isn't it
yeah,
amazing? I mean, I forget who posted it, but and it makes sense because that memorial is such a huge part of Audubon lore. So I echo what you said. I sometimes I don't know who's coming. Dana makes fun of me because I start planning the Dave stuff like 8 weeks in advance, and I can't figure out what we're gonna do for dinner tomorrow night. But I that's how seriously I take it. And so when people
absolutely.
come that are new or had seen a while, or I know I'm going to see Brian Jake, I'm going to see Eric Brown, I'm going to see Amanda Brown at
Yeah,
least once a year. Big hugs, a lot of dancing, terrible dancing, and Dave. It's just a great part of. I said anybody who will listen, it's my favorite day of the year. It's my Christmas, so I can't wait again this year.
yeah,
Um, the hot seat question for you, I think I picked.
yeah.
So
That's
I
all
was
right.
gonna keep it a secret, but I want people who are considering coming on or wondering how this goes. There are guests who I allow to pick the question. There are guests who I have a couple tuned up for based on their personalities. But I always ask, at some point, what is there something that's off limits? So that's kind of gone really well for the show. But now I'm going to put it back on you. Why don't you tell everybody how this happened, how this question that you're about to get asked happened?
We're gonna go with what we talked
Yeah,
about.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. So I read the book, and as you're reading it, at the end of every chapter, there's a lot of questions, and not every question sticks with you. Like,
Right.
it's just. But for whatever reason, I just got very stuck on the question of like, what's your worst quality? And answering the worst quality part was fairly easy.
Hmm.
Pretty self-reflective person, so that part. But it was really like the internal monologue that I had in this, like, as I would love to kind of explain, like the juxtaposition of how of your personality traits and how they're perceived in different situations, or how one positive trait can also be perceived as like a really negative trait.
Yep.
Um, and then my wife and I, on a drive to Jersey, actually, we were kind of talking about this like back and forth, and it was just one of those questions where like my wheels just kept spinning on it. Um,
Yeah.
and
So the way it worked out is that I had talked to Sean about some things that were on or off the table, and then I kind of divulged that I always have a couple questions in the back pocket. And then he said to me, this is all, I think, yesterday, the day before. He's
yeah,
like, The one question I keep coming back to, and he said it, and it was number one on my list. I won't say number two because I love number two, and I'll save it for somebody else. But I cannot believe that we were on the same page, although it should be no surprise. But I'm gonna quickly deviate because something you just said. So you talked about how sometimes a quality that people associate you with can be positive or negative depending on who the person is or the relationship you have. I did a thing with my staff, Sean, probably 6 years ago. I listened to a podcast. I love Adam Grant. So for anybody who's listening, Adam Grant is like my guru. He teaches out of Penn. He's got a show, a podcast through the TED Network. Anyway, he was talking to Danny Meyer, who's the CEO of Shake Shack, and he's talking about like quality assurance and customer relationships. And Danny Meyer said, one of the things that is the biggest misconception in business is that the customer is always right. We always have to cater to the customer. And there's a pause on the podcast, and like Adam Grant's thinking about it, and then Danny continues and he goes, "It's for us. It's not. It's the employees. If our employees are taken care of and cared for and
Mhm.
loved and supported, people will want to come see them because they want to be where they are." So I talk about this all the time in terms of like building my staff and making sure our morale and our culture is high. And then he said this, that everybody in the world has a wake. So think about like being on a sea, right? There's a wake that you leave behind. And the wake is what people first see you as that you either prove to be completely true or completely false. So I'm doing it with my staff, and I'm
Mhm.
pretty new to the principalship. And I said that one of the things that really annoys me about my personality and the perception of me is that I can be arrogant. And if anybody, people like you who know me know there's so much self doubt, there's so much
Yeah.
anxiety that's just not true. But for whatever reason, I present that way. So I was telling my staff that, and then once, like bit by bit, people are like, all
Yeah.
right, and they raise their hands and start talking about how they think people see them. And then at the end, I was like, okay, we just did that for us. Now think about the 9-year-old who's coming to your class tomorrow. What must he think we think of him because
Mhm.
he comes from poverty or becomes, a broken home or whatever, or comes from money, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
And that are we going to self-fulfill that prophecy for him or not? So you just said that, just made me think of that. So now that's a perfect
Yeah.
entree. And so what is this quality you've been mulling over? What do you think people think of you?
Yeah. Well, I'll answer like the quality part. So, worst quality, and I immediately went to I'm impatient.
Okay.
And I went to that immediately because it's something that I'm actively working on.
Okay.
But my impatience doesn't come and show as like super irritated or angry. It typically shows like really reactive.
Okay.
And it's something that I'm actively trying to work on with parenting and with my kids, like
Yes. I was, yeah.
giving them space. I have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, and they're the best part of me, and they're incredible boys. But like they deserve my patience, and like something my wife says all the we remind ourselves is like they're having a hard time. They're not giving us a hard time,
Yeah. That's a great way to put it.
and so that's. But then it also shows as being very reactive. So if someone has a question or needs help, I often can be too quick to react to something, or I'm too quick to share a thought or an opinion. Where I sit in meetings often with my finger over my mouth to help teach myself to like I don't need to be that first person to agree, disagree, whatever it may be. So my impatience is something that I'm really trying to work on, and that's where. But then the more deep that I went with it, it had me kind of thinking about in different situations maybe a positive trait that appears negative. So thinking back to myself in high school, I really wanted better for myself than where I came from.
Okay.
Loving family, loving mom, loving family, but like I wanted more stability, and I desperately wanted more for myself than where I came from. But that also could have been viewed as being self-righteous
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
better than others.
Yeah.
But if you had asked me about it, it was that I wanted to be better. It wasn't that I thought that I was. If anything, I
I mean,
probably,
that's semantic shift. That's huge.
yeah.
Those are two very different things.
And so that's something as I reflect back on myself about high school is like I wanted to be better, and I didn't want to be better than anyone else. I wanted to be better than the instability that I had when I was a very young child
Yep.
or wherever it may be. But then I started thinking about so in social situations, I think that I'm a very considerate friend and a very empathetic friend.
Uh-huh.
That can also show as being very controlling and wanting to be the one who like schedules things or makes things,
Yeah.
gets things going, but it's because I'm thinking about the other people. But it can also show us controlling. So like two others that I thought about is I'm a very direct communicator with, which is great at work.
Yep.
That's a little bit of like the Jersey, but also just how I am as a person. But if I'm not mindful of my tone and how I say things, it can be rude or it can be brash.
Right. Right.
And then like the last one is that the way that I grew up, like I always had to figure it out. And I have this belief that I am very rarely the best at something or
Hmm.
the smartest, but I have this like absolute belief that I can figure anything out because my
Okay.
whole life I always figured it out.
Right.
But that can come off as being incredibly arrogant.
Yeah.
And it's not that I believe that I'm the right or the best or the smartest. It's that I believe like I'll figure out a way to make this work or to learn this thing or to do something.
Right.
And so I just had this like balance of all these like positive negatives that this one question in the hot seat
Yeah.
had me pretty deep on.
Yeah. I mean, that's what a great answer. I mean, first of all, you are very reflective, which you have to be. I think the older you get as a parent, I'm hearing you talk about impatience, and I'll never forget. I was putting Abby to bed one time, and I was closing the door, and she goes, "Daddy, why do you always sound so frustrated?" And I was like, "Oh my God." Yeah, I mean, I'll never. I mean, she was probably 4, and it could have been the day. It could have been that I was tired. You know how, or I'm sure
Yeah.
your kids can have one more book for 50 books, and then I'm like, "Can we just get whatever?" But it stuck with me that it was emanating out, which was bad. Um, but I also think that what you stumbled upon is that so many of the qualities you talked about are sort of bipolar, right? So like
Mhm.
you can be direct, but also be perceived as a jerk. You can be empathetic and kind and supportive, but then be looked at as the savior. So I guess my question for you is, as you're thinking about all these people and all these people you love, obviously your mom and your brother come to mind for me. How much are you thinking about that for yourself?
Oh, can you ask that again?
Yeah, like how much are you thinking about yourself while you're thinking about everyone else? Because this is a serious problem for me and I'm working on it actively, but I have to be reminded that there's also a self in there somewhere. So are you ever able to step back and kind of think through what you need or what you're feeling?
I think it's something that I've gotten better. That I've gotten better at. It's inevitable that I share this like very quick story that I had a traumatic brain injury 7 years ago, and
Yep.
it's the craziest thing that ever happened to me. And I fractured my skull, and I had all
Yep.
these things happen. But it was also the thing that I'm single handedly most grateful that happened to me because it just changed my perspective on life and on how I view myself. But it also made me become more proud of things, and it
Right.
also I think helped me like think about a little bit more about what I need. And one of the things I'm trying is to like turn off the self-reflective sometimes. And talking with my wife, she does such a great job of like reflecting on herself, but then like being content and being happy with the place that she's at.
Right.
So
Right.
that's the thing that I have trying to find for myself,
Dude,
like
I'm so
turning it
with
off
you.
sometimes.
Yeah.
Like it's okay if today isn't the day you get miraculously better at this one thing. Like
Right.
just go enjoy whatever it is you're doing.
Yeah, it's true. And Megan last week talked about, which was so important, when you're talking to people that you care about. I just had a conversation with a friend last night that I'm worried about. I want to help. Like my instinct is to help. And I remember that Meg said on the show last week, like when her and her friends talk, one of the things they say to each other is, "Do you need my help? Do you need advice, or am I just here to
Yeah.
listen?" And then she quickly said, "Because sometimes I can't give you what you need, and I have to tap out. I am not good at that. I have to
Mhm.
get better at. There's other people in my life who need me, and I have to like obviously focus on them. But my mind's always like wandering to like who have not checked in on in a while. Like who could really use a text for me? Like, hey, bro, hope you're okay." Or just anything, or some sort of silly meme to make somebody laugh. I know he's having a tough day. Um, I cannot turn it off, Sean. So if you figure it out, let's start a consultation company for how to turn their brains off and make $1 bazillion because I can't do it,
Yeah.
man. It's tough.
It is really tough. I am conscious for sure about the type of energy I bring, and then avoiding people who I know just consistently
Love
bring
it.
negative
Yep.
energy. Like
Yep.
I can't always be the person to bring the highest energy, but I never want to be the person who's going to bring it down.
Yep.
It's life's too exhausting. People have too much going on
Yeah.
so I am very conscious of like not today with this particular person. Maybe it's a work
Yeah.
or something
Yeah.
like no, that's just always a complaint. It's always just a negative. Like I'm over here having a good day. I'm gonna keep it that way.
Yeah, yeah, and that's how I hire, Sean. I just had to hire 4 people this year, and it's a strange year for me. And I believe so much in vibe and energy. Like if I feel better in your presence, even briefly, even on a Zoom while I interview you, then things are probably going to go well for you. And I think there's a definite and in what's the word? Irrefutable negative energy that people bring that it's like the dog, like they just know people are weird, right? Like
Yeah.
like I'll do
Yeah.
it, but I'm not going to hire you. I need the
Mhm.
best people with the highest energy, because we're in the business of children. So like you have to be your best. One of my best teachers who just left actually said, in a staff meeting, I can't always be 10 out of 10. But I will give you 7 out of 10 on my 7 out of 10 day, and the 7 out of 10 is going to be for our kids. But those other three I need for my children and my husband. I can't give it to you. And we all kind of like nodded through it. Like if I don't know if I'm ever a 10 out of 10. Like there's just too much going. Like to your point, did we sleep last night? Are my kids going through something? Am I going through something? Whatever. We bring what we bring to our school and our work and our lives, and we do the best we can with the people that we have. So I think I think that's another reason why we're so close is that we think so similarly.
Yeah.
And like I said, if you figure it out, let me know, and vice versa. Um, Listen, I just saw you, so this isn't one of the ones like I hadn't seen Meg in a long time. But I'm just so thankful for our friendship. I'm thankful for who you are as a person. I'm so glad. I mean, I didn't know if you're gonna bring up the brain thing. That was when I heard about that, I was not in a good space. I was really worried for you.
Thank you.
So I'm glad that you're okay. And obviously, I'm sure you're a wonderful papa. And I just every time I get a chance to see you and hang out with you is meaningful to me. So thanks for coming on tonight. I appreciate it, bro. I hope you're okay, and I hope everything's okay down there in Maryland. And I'll see you when I see you.
Yeah, see you in a few weeks. Thank you
Yeah,
so much for having me. This was fun. Love the book, and I'm really grateful for how long and how close we've stayed.
same, man. I appreciate it. Thanks, Sean.
Thank you.
All
Bye.
right, dude. See you. All right, guys. I'll see you next week. Actually, forget who the guest is, but I will let you know with an update. Then we have the very famous Pat Barker is going to be joining us. Pat is a former student, and now he's out in LA doing his thing as a professional comedian, and writer. So he'll be on in a couple weeks. And then I have a former student teacher of mine who experienced the hot seat for herself as a student teacher in 2011. So her name's Carrie Skipper. She'll be on later too. Hey, enjoy your holiday. Thank you for hanging in and watching the show and being so supportive. Pick up the book, obviously, and pass it on widely. Appreciate you guys, man. I'll talk to you later. All right, hot seaters, thanks for tuning in. Before you go, here's how to stay connected. Follow me on Instagram at Brian_Kulak. Check out more resources on my blog over at briankulak.net. Pick up a copy of The Hot Seat or my other book, Level Up Leadership, both available now on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. And please, if you found value in today's conversation, leave us a rating and a review. It truly helps others discover these stories. Share this episode with someone in your life, hit subscribe, and I'll see you next week for another conversation in The Hot Seat.